welcome Renata. Welcome here. Hello.
Hello. Thank you
Hello.
for inviting me to be part of this event.
I will introduce you to let our audience know more about your profile and even to frame better the main topic that we will have in this conversation. So Renata Leitao is adjunct professor at the OCAD University in Canada, and in a few days will be also assistant professor at the Department of Design and Environmental Analysis at Cornell University. So congratulations already for this new role that you will have starting in a few days. So I also know that you are moving from one place to another, so it's a tough time, but a very energetic moment for you, I can imagine.
Yes, I'm in a hotel room now. Just everything is like in transition.
Good. And other information about our guest. So Renata is a co-chair of one of the special interest group of the DRS, the Design Research Society, that is the Pluriversal Design Group, which aim at promoting and creating intercultural and pluralistic conversation about design beyond mainstream design narratives. And it tries to build conversation around research and researchers that do not operate under modern Western thinking, which is quite central in the current conversation about understanding and widening and broadening the conversation in design discipline and research on topics that are very central in a shift that our society and culture are going through. And she's also co-chair of the Pivot conferences, and the next one will be on July 22nd and 23rd on a big issue and big topic that is dismantling and reassembling tools for alternative futures. So we are trying to build the main topic that we will go through. So beyond mainstream design narratives, tools for alternative futures. So giving some few other words, Renata worked on social change, on participatory action research, on with indigenous culture. So we will see, we will listen from her some few information, but let's move to the main topic. So I will briefly introduce the statement that Renata sent us to frame her conversation around the big topic of uncertainty that the 24 Hours 2021 has just launched. So she stated a fundamental central issue for design researchers and practitioners. So the fact that the needs-centered design research and practice may prevent from actually change the present towards preferable futures. And the preferable futures are those that may configure not what we can reach under the current circumstances, but what we would like, we want to reach. So it's a matter of what we want what we desire. And more importantly, preferable futures are ways in which, when speaking with communities and any kind of stakeholders in our design practice, so giving communities the ability to envision and imagine a better future. So Renata, could you illustrate your reflection on a not needs-centered futurism?
Yes, and when I started to work with indigenous communities, like 10 years ago, I always had the idea of design for social needs. So we had this design that was more for like market center and design for social needs. So the community had, in my view, that is the mainstream view, some problems, and we would help them to solve those problems. With time, I realized that this idea is crazy. It's something that, yes, I'm not saying that those communities don't have problems. I'm not saying that they don't have needs. They have many needs. When usually we are talking about local communities, indigenous communities, Afro-descendant communities, many times we are talking about poverty. So it's not that they don't have needs. It's just that addressing needs, you don't produce social change. That's something. Needs human-centered design reproduce the Western model of life, the Western structures. It's something very important to understand. And maybe it's time to have two branches of design. One that is really about problem solving. And it's important because there are actual problems and that need to be addressed. But this kind of thinking, this kind of design process don't lead to social change. Now we are in a moment of crisis, amazing, environmental, social. There's just so many crises, and we think that we want to create a sustainable society. What we want to create social justice. So, but a sustainable society, social justice, is not like the society as we know, without poverty, or the society as we know without some garbage, without just. It's not about fixing. It's about a new way of life. It's a new way of structuring the society. And what is that way? We don't know. And when I started to understand that when you collaborate with a local community and you really want to produce change, it's more about listening to the aspirations, to the dreams, and to the desires. And desires, it's something that we in the Western society, we don't really think it's something valuable. We really don't think that's something that is wise, that can really inform us, because we think that's desire something that is more futile. But desire is honesty. We are honest about what we are willing to act. Desire means entails an energy. And when we want to create social change, you need a lot of energy, because you are deviating from the mainstream. You need a lot of energy. You need a lot of motivation. So I found several thinkers from the South, from marginalized communities, or Afro-American, that work with the idea of desire, or Audre Lorde with the erotic in Brazil, Marcus Faustini. But I also found design researchers too, Nelson and Stolterman, that also work of the idea of desire, because desire is honesty. What are you willing to do? It doesn't mean that you are going to act on all your desires, but you have to understand what your desires are. So it's another kind of investigation. Investigation on needs, it's great, but it's problem solving. Creating something that we don't know yet, you need to have an investigation into desires. And then it doesn't mean that you don't have like a vision long term. It's just that you act, and then you receive like you see the results. As Donald Sean says, that you receive the back talk from the reality. So you act, and then reality, you're never able to completely your ideas, you can try to implement, but you always have some like slapping from reality. But it's nice, because everybody who is involved in the project, all the community, receives the same back talk. So we understand, oh, now we are much wiser. Now we are much more knowledgeable. So when you act and you are attentive to the situation, how it changes, it creates another kind of reasoning. And this reasoning is closer to indigenous ways of life. I I worked for many years with the Atikamekw in Quebec, in Canada. And they have the concept of 6 seasons. But it's not a season that is going to start on June 21st. The seasons start when the environment changes. So it's about attention, about seeing, about interacting. So when you talk about a desire-based design, it's about much more about paying attention in the changes, paying attention in your environment, paying attention to each other, to the community. So that's basically just an introduction to this desire-based process.
I found fantastic even the definition of saying investigation on desires, because anytime, especially as academics, the word investigation and the process of investigation has something always to do with following a methodology, choosing a methodology that always comes or mainly comes from, of course, from the connection with other disciplines. And we tried always to fix steps, to fix methods, to fix tools. But now we are speaking about another kind of investigation that is on desires, that may see even as a new way of understanding the shift from problem solving to problem framing. So framing what? Framing the problem, but the problem under which lenses? So these lenses of needs and desires is a way really, and I totally agree with this, to see in another sense, in another level, the kind of interaction that you create in any kind of context that could have communities that are closer or not so close to the kind of background that in any case we have as human beings. But it is a way to open up our eyes, because in any case we are not part of that context. And even this concept of paying attention, and that is strongly connected to the example that you did of this community culture with the 6 seasons. And it says a lot on the way in which our Western culture developed. So the idea that in any case, at the end, the human being was always at the center of the way in which we try to read and to structure time, space, everything was based on us as human beings. So it is another kind of seeing the world, of conceiving the world itself.
Yes, it's another way of conceiving the world. And something that is very important about Western thinking is about the idea of controlling nature, about creating more certainty. I love the theme of this event that's about uncertainty, because Western culture is all about creating certainty. So you know that you are going to have 24 hours that you're going to work. You have clocks, you have time, so you create something that is certain, and then you live. Just I was living in Montreal, and you receive like many meters of snow, and you have the snow trucks that remove, so you can live as if it was summer all the time, because you have to create this certainty that you're always going to arrive on time. But there is another certainty that this is the Western way of life is the destiny. It's the point of arrival of the entire planet. And so there is this thinking that we have to help other people, not let them behind. They have to catch up to this way of life. And this way of life, you know that, oh my God, it's creating so many problems. So how can you create change? It's not about the Western pathway without the problems. It's another way. It's another way that we still don't know, and that's why I collaborate with my dear friend Leslie Ann Noel to create the pluriversal design SIG. because we have to create these conversations between other ways of life, other ways of conceiving reality, just to be able to create, yes, Leslie Ann will have a talk later, to create other ways of being, of occupying the planet that are not this system that is Western. But it's still, when many times designers collaborate with a community, you still think that when you solve the problem, when you solve the needs, they are going to flow. It's not. It's not. It's not. Because what was colonization? It was about destroying the structural features of that society. So it's not, doesn't matter. Yes, they need money, they need many things, but it's not going to allow them to thrive, because to thrive you have to create a desire-based approach. That's the thing. And
Yeah.
there are new some methodologies that are desire based. It can also have methods that are desire based, but it's another process.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think that, and this is of course connected with this idea of uncertainty, that at the end, the fact of being so, of course, and inevitably embedded in our culture has created, even as design researchers, a sort of addiction to certainty. So under the dominant narrative of the industrial market-oriented future, the development-oriented future, so this mainstream global narrative that you mentioned already, so this idea that we always have a goal, an end that we have to reach with specific characteristics that should be the same for everyone, and everyone should be part of this sort of dream that everyone should reach. But this is a dream connected to what? To another kind of culture, another kind of time, of space. And I think that we acquired this addition to certainty as design researchers and practitioners within this idea of a solution-oriented design. So, and it is a way, even if we speak about in design research, in the scientific community speak about complexity since many decades, of course. At the end, by having a solution-oriented design, we don't really embrace complexity. Even if we speak about responsible solutions, even if we try to reach our scope with a participatory-based approach, we must admit that this way can only drive towards a lack of envisioning. So this idea, the main words that you mentioned, so desire, vision, aspiration, so dreaming in any case of something different. So we do not encourage visions between actual needs. And even to have a long-term conversation, because trying to reach a solution means that we have a short-term vision. So how can we overcome this blind spot, this illusion that we need to reach a fixed point of arrival?
I think we need more methods, and we need to create more methods. That's why it's about research. Create other methods that are more based on vision, aspiration, and desire. Three different stuff, but the three of them are important. I mention a lot desire because desire is the least used, and sometimes people say desirable futures, but when people say desirable future, desirable thing, they usually are not engaging with desire. They are engaging with aspiration or vision. Desire is something more that is more physical. It's more just like what really wakes me up. What I just what are the things that really get me thrilled, excited to act. So it's more about listening to your body, to your readiness to act when we talk about desire. And there are some methods, and I'd love to mention Agência de Redes da Juventude, a method from Brazil. They have a methodology to engage with desire, to really understand and investigate, because it's not that oh, they desire this, let's accomplish it. No, it's just be honest about the things that you desire, and then what it tells about you, what it tells about your environment. It's an investigation into desire. It's not about to absolutely try to bring that to reality. You're investigating into that, in what will make you ready to act. And then from that, with your vision, you can create projects. So the envisioning, to have the long-term vision, is amazing, it's important, but also you need to have the investigation in your physical readiness to act. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, there we have the big concept of embodiment and situatedness. So the point that from one side we have to admit that all the as design researchers, that sometimes any kind of methods that you that is more connected maybe to an artistic side of design, that see more a personal view, and in you as a filter of what you are doing, and not to reach and to run to get reliability, because the big topic of design research is, yeah, you have to find out a process that is reliable. And this prevents the evolution of many methods, I think, that are that may be also connected to art, so also to a more art-based design approach that consider also the researcher in itself with a big role of also embodiment of the process of autoethnography, as also Laura Forlano mentioned in some of her presentations and speeches and publications. So this idea that you are part of the process even with your body. So this is also you part of the process in a stronger way. So I totally agree with this. And I also like the fact that you mentioned a lot another word, that is honesty. So being honest. That yes, in design research is central, but in another sense. So we are speaking of a sense of honesty that is different, because it calls for being honest even with yourself. So being able to be part of something, and to be really part of it. So I think it's so central, and sometimes we lost, and we don't consider that even our activity as researchers is not detached to life. So it's real life. Sometimes we run through for this, so reliability and scientificness, etc. That is important, is central for us, but it's not detached from life. So it's central.
And it's funny that we think it's more artistic, but it's not that artistic. It's just artificially separated. The things that are embodied, that are artistic, but just you investigating of how you feel, how your partners, your collaborating feel about something. It's not necessarily artistic. And reliability. Sometimes when you try to have like a very technical approach that is like reliable, it's also reliable that is not creating change. You can really rely that it's not creating change, because you keep repeating the same things that are defined by the mainstream narrative. You are defined by the mainstream narrative. So to deviate, to create alternative narratives, it's a lot about being embodied and being like comfortable with uncertainty, because we are not what we are doing is not being reflected by the mainstream narrative. So you have to be comfortable with doing something that is not what everybody is like reinforcing and confirming, and something that the only way that you can act is really feeling, really going back to your body. That's the only way that you can find comfort within uncertainty.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree also that this doesn't mean that that has to be artistic, but it relies on this big dichotomy that also we run through between the techno-scientific side of design and the more connected to human sciences and art. So we always have this dichotomy that doesn't exist. I agree that doesn't exist, of course. As a last question that I would like to ask you, you mentioned a few minutes ago the experience that you had with indigenous communities during your PhD. So if you would like to tell us more about this, and it was really interesting, this notion of time, so how much they are different when we speak about the big difference between linear and circular time. And this is also interesting because at the end, yes, our Western culture is based on linear notion of time. But at the end, if we think about the basis of our culture, so the Greek one and the other in the Mediterranean area, so before the transformation under the Christian vision of the world, we also had a circular vision of time. So something has been lost. So would you like to tell us more about your experience there with these communities?
I really think that the linear is an illusion, because it is cyclical. We have cycles. We have the 4 seasons anyways. Like the year is a cycle, day is a cycle. So how can we really go back to the things that understanding that, oh my God, looking back, it happened. So we are in a similar cycle again. But working with them, I learned that many times when I think about using their ancestral culture to plan, it's not going back in time. It's about just taking that inspiration to project it into the future, because it's cyclical anyways. And something that I was surprised when, is that many things I didn't know about that culture. But when we started to create a project based on aspirations, in the aspirations, they bring all the knowledge from the past. It's already embedded there. You don't have to investigate in that. So I was so surprised. I think, oh my God, I didn't know about this, but it came with the aspirations. And what it generated, because it was based on their aspiration, that they were super enthusiastic. Today, the project still exists, and they are still running. And Atikamek artists, they are still doing the workshops. They incorporated that method into their creative practice, because it was something that really resonated with who they are, how they see themselves, how they see themselves into the future. So I don't think that I would be able to have these ideas of desire-based, aspiration-based design if it wasn't for them. I learned a lot. That was just a big gift in my life, that I was blessed to have that experience.
And you mentioned that they were still running some activities and projects, starting with their collaboration with you. Just to mention some activities or projects that they are, or transformation that they are applying or experimenting.
I'm a graphic designer, so the project, the name is Tapsquan Workshops. It was about revitalizing the iconography, the traditional iconography, the graphic heritage, and they are still doing it. Sometimes I work. Today I saw my Facebook, and an artist was showing all her work based on her traditional graphic heritage. So they are still excited to create stuff based on that approach that started during my PhD. So I'm super lucky to have that experience.
That's fantastic and super interesting. So I invite everyone, me and myself included, to read more about this big research that you have to run for your PhD. So it has been a pleasure to have this conversation with you, Renata. So
it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.